The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to the box office breakdown for January 15th through the 17th. Let's just start with a quick rundown of the top 10, and then I'm just going to go in and talk about the two new movies of the week. Avatar continuing its reign at number 1 unbelievably, only changing 15% since last week, taking in $42.8 million, bringing its US total to $493 million. Worldwide total at this point is $1.6 billion. That's only $200 million behind Titanic for the all-time record. And it's done that in just 5 weeks. Again, it's amazing that James Cameron has made the two highest grossing movies of all time. Now, one quick thing to mention is that this past week I read Avatar is actually placing pretty low when it comes to audience turnout. It hasn't broken the top 100 in terms of attendance. So that says something about ticket prices nowadays. If you were to adjust for inflation, Avatar would not be as big of a success as the perception is at the moment. So not in the top 100 in terms of attendance, but currently second all-time in box office gross worldwide, and in the next few weeks it should easily break that. Second place, Book of Eli took in $32.7 million. That was the first new movie of the week, so we'll discuss that in a second. Number 3, The Lovely Bones, which had been slowly rolling out. It was released late last year, so it would qualify for this year's Oscar contention, and it went wide this week, adding 2,500 theaters. It took in $17 million. Number 4, Alvin and the Chipmunks The Squeakquel continues to make money. $11.6 million this week. It dropped off 30%. Its total is $192 million in the US on a budget of $75 million. And sit down, get ready for the depressing news. Worldwide total, $354 million. Overseas, it's made $157. $354 on a budget of $75. Get ready for part 3. Sherlock Holmes comes in at number 5, taking in just about $10 million. It dropped off 40%, so that's starting to slow down. It's made $180 million in the US on its $90 million budget. Worldwide, it has taken in $313. So as mentioned before, there will definitely be a sequel for that. The Spy Next Door came in 6th place, taking in $9.6 million. That's the second new movie of the week we'll discuss in just a second. Number 7, It's Complicated took in $7.1 million. Its budget $85 million, and its US total $88.2. So as discussed before, that is an original idea aimed at the older demographic that doesn't get much respect nowadays. So that's definitely a sign of movie hope. Worldwide, it's made $126 million. Leap Year comes in 8th place. We discussed that last week in terms of kind of a cliche romantic comedy. Budget of $19 million. It took in $5.8 for a total of $17.5. So it looks like it's on its way to making its budget back. Number 9, The Blind Side takes in $5.5 million, bringing its total to $226. And again, its budget was only $29 million. So that's probably one of the great successes of the year, alongside Paranormal Activity. And in 10th place, Up in the Air takes in $5.4 million. Its budget was $25, and it's made $62 in the US. That's definitely considered a hit. Total worldwide box office isn't all that impressive. It's just $5 more million, so about $68 million. So it seems like this story is catering a little bit more to the US audience. Alright, so Book of Eli, 2nd place, Denzel Washington, Mila Kunis, Gary Oldman. What's interesting here is kind of the background. First, this is an original idea. It is not based on anything, and it is directed by the Hughes brothers, who have not been around in the movie-making business for a few years. 2001 was the last time they were behind the camera, and that was Johnny Depp playing Jack the Ripper in From Hell. They've always been pretty good visual stylists, and early on in their career, when they broke through with Menace to Society, they were writers and directors. They did not write this story, which could be part of the problem. They definitely gave it this interesting post-apocalyptic kind of look. It very much was kind of this bleached out sky and gray and sickly environment kind of thing. There's some pretty interesting long tracking shots, long unbroken takes, obviously CGI. Its budget is $80 million, and with a gross of $32.7 the opening weekend, not too bad. I'm sure that the studio would have liked to have seen maybe a $50 million opening. There are no foreign box office numbers available yet, so maybe it's slowly releasing throughout the rest of the world. Anything with Denzel Washington usually tends to draw an audience, but this isn't his typical kind of role where he's able to verbalize. He's really great at just delivering lines of dialogue and putting a little bit of fire behind them. This is a new kind of role. It's definitely not Man on Fire or Training Day or even Philadelphia, where he's able to kind of take front and center and give a passionate speech. That's not his character in the movie. It's a very quiet kind of character. Sort of a risky role for him, but he's getting older and he can take risks. He's done all he's needed to do. He's obviously one of the great actors of the last 20 years, so he's got nothing to lose. And it is fun to see him in a role where he has to do some kung fu / fighting moves in it. Expect this to make back its budget. Next week it'll take in 15 to 18 million, 10 million after that. Slowly it should build towards the 80 once it's released worldwide. It'll definitely get to that point, but just breaking even isn't really going to cut it. It will be considered an underperformer, kind of a failure, and that's unfortunate for us because, again, it was an original screenplay, not based on anything, and it does have some interesting themes and ideas behind it. It does try to take the apocalyptic film places that it hasn't necessarily been in the past. So it's absolutely a sign of movie hope, but unfortunately for us, just because it was an original screenplay idea, it wasn't executed to that optimized kind of level where everything was running like a well-oiled machine. And that's one of the downsides of when you're a producer or a studio backing something that's an original screenplay. If it's not based on a TV show or a novel, you have to make sure that it's fully fleshed out. When you're writing a screenplay, you're doing the same amount of work that you would in a novel, except you have less space to actually print the letters and put the words down. It has to be within the character. You can't go inside the characters' minds and let us know what they're thinking. That's not how a screenplay works. That's not the structure of that medium. So one of the benefits of adapting, let's say, The Road, where you have this novel that's 300 pages, is that as a screenwriter adapting that, you have all of this thought through and worked out, so you can just take it in and translate it into the screenwriting medium, and it's going to be three-dimensional. But if you're just coming up with it on your own, always remember, you gotta just approach it as if you're a novelist, someone who's writing on the show, and this is a adaptation of a program that's been on for 3 years, and you've had all these episodes to develop all the characters and backstory, and they've gone through all these conflicts, and you know who the people are. When you have something like that, you're at an advantage. Hopefully this won't be too much of a blow against the original screenplay, against the spec script where it is not based on anything. Sixth place was The Spy Next Door, the other new movie of the week, and that is Jackie Chan tagging Vin Diesel out and replacing him in the obligatory, I was an action star when I was younger. Now that I'm getting a little bit older and everyone's burned out on me doing that kind of role, I'm going to approach comedies. So just give me some little kids and I'll babysit them or have to protect them from something. So it's Vin Diesel, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everyone's taken this turn of going from the action movie and babysitting kids. Obviously not seen this. I have no intention of seeing this in the theater. I'll check this out as a rental. But apparently this is kind of taking the approach of Paul Blart, where Paul Blart last January dominated the box office for literally like 8 weeks. It was 2 months of just Paul Blart being in the top 5, taking in outrageous amounts of money. But that movie was essentially a comedic version of Die Hard. Here, apparently, The Spy Next Door is a comedy version of True Lies, which actually had a lot of comedy in it, but here, instead of Schwarzenegger, we have Jackie Chan and some kids, and it's True Liesy, with obviously not the same level of quality to the script. But I have heard Jackie Chan is back in terms of pretty interesting fight choreography. So if you're a Jackie Chan fan, you've probably already checked this out if you just want to see him doing wild stuff. And he's almost 60 years old, and he's still able to do these great moves. One of the best things about seeing a Jackie Chan movie is the bloopers afterwards. So if that's enough to get you into the theater, you have my blessing. But for me, this is a sign of the movie apocalypse, because even though it is quote-unquote an original screenplay, it's not necessarily based on anything. It's basically Hulk Hogan in Suburban Commando, or it's Kindergarten Cop, or it's Vin Diesel in The Pacifier. It's all the same kind of story, and I guess we need those every few years. Kids grow up, and the 6-year-olds that enjoyed this kind of movie 4 years ago are too old for it, and the 2-year-olds that couldn't go see the movie before are now old enough to enjoy it. So there's this whole kind of marketing thing going on, and there's always an audience for these kind of movies. The director of The Spy Next Door is Brian Levant, who has made some, let's say, interesting movies in the past. Problem Child 2, Beethoven in 1992, The Flintstones in 94, Jingle All the Way, another Schwarzenegger comedy in 96, Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas, Snow Dogs, Are We There Yet?, Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins. So this guy's got his shtick all figured out. He knows what he's good at. He knows where he can make the money. More power to him. If he's good at delivering these kind of laughs, That's fine. That's where he's going to stay. Jackie Chan, he's always going to be in demand, but not necessarily for Operation Condor Part 3 and Drunken Master Part 6. Those days are behind him. Now he's going to be more of the comedy/action guy, and his next movie coming up is The Karate Kid, where he plays Mr. Miyagi. I'll share my thoughts on that in a preview review for The Karate Kid coming up in a few weeks. So that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging out and reviewing the new releases. And until next week, take care, choose your movies wisely because StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for, and as always,
long live good movies!